The KUDZUKIAN Network presents Grindset, inside the mind of successful entrepreneurs with your host, Cynthia Daniels and Williams Bragg.
I think sometimes we overplan things and that can kind of cause a delay or setback. But I would definitely say dive in, get your name started, get your website up, get your business cards.
But you're going to learn from a lot of amazing people what kind of pitfalls that they have, the challenges, but what really made them successful, what made them keep going.
Grindset.
Welcome to Grindset. I'm your host, Cynthia Daniels, Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels & Company.
And I'm your co-host, Williams Bragg. You can call me Bragg. Commercial lender, asset-based lending at First Tennessee Bank. Today we have Alandas Dobbins, a Memphis native and CEO of Oteka Technologies, a low-voltage cabling company. This is actually her second business, but for the uninitiated, find out what a low-voltage cabling company is.
This is going to be such an amazing episode, Bragg. I cannot wait to talk with Alandas Dobbins. We'll be right back. You're listening to Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Riffin' on Jazz.
I'm Howard Robertson, one of your hosts for Riffin' on Jazz. Riffin' is your weekly visit with friends where we dive all in to that classic African-American art form called jazz. So don't miss Riffin' with me and my man Melvin Massey every week on your favorite broadcast and podcast platforms.
Riffin' on Jazz on the KUDZUKIAN Network. KUDZUKIAN! Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
And we're back with this week's guest, Alandas Dobbins, CEO of Oteka Technologies. We're so excited to have you here with us, and we really just want to know, what is Oteka Technologies?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is very exciting. We are a new business, and so as much as I can get advertisement out about Oteka Technologies, the better.
We're happy to have you.
Use all the advertisement. Put it on the website.
There we go.
Yes. So Oteka Technologies is a South African word, and the word, it looks like it's pronounced Oteka, but it is, because it's a South African word, the actual pronunciation is Oteka, and it means strong. And this time around, wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to kind of identify the African part of the African American and bring in something that meant something to me and something that would mean something to those who work there. And, as we get into this probably a little bit more, you have to be strong to be an entrepreneur.
Very true.
In America, and particularly in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like lift weight strong or mentally strong?
All of it. All of the above. I can attest to that.
Last box.
Oh, wow. So tell us then about the first few months of your business. How long have you been operating?
It's been about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And so the first few months, you got to fill out paperwork.
That's important.
It's important because you have to go, if you choose, and I said the word have, but if you choose to go through the certification processes, it's an extensive process to begin with. And so you can use that to be helpful. But so there's a lot of paperwork involved. If you want to register to do business with private industry or with government entities, again, it's a lot of paperwork. And then just getting the business started, you have to make sure you file all the different and appropriate paperwork with the local, state, and federal government. And then, of course, you have to make sure you're doing the appropriate record keeping for your taxes and things. So there, it can be extensive in the beginning.
So did you do all of this yourself, or did you have accountants and attorneys and other advisors to kind of help you out in the process?
We worked about 20 hours a day to get all that paperwork done. But this is not my first time in business, and so I was familiar with the process.
Okay.
So in starting, you have to do that, and of course, go out and hit the road and get sales in and cover, wear the many hats that an entrepreneur wears.
Right. And who are your clients?
So we work with a variety of clients. One thing, my father, who I was in business with at first, he really kind of taught me most of the things that I know. I got a degree from college, but I also got a master's and a PhD from my dad.
There we go.
Hands-on, real world.
Look, you better learn this. You better learn to fly, but you're going to crawl first. And so do this, and this.
Right.
Well, a lot of students come out of college and sometimes even master's degree thinking they're ready to take on the world and the workforce.
Right.
And I stepped into my first job and I'm like, oh, I don't think I learned anything while I was there.
It was all textbook savvy.
And
right?
I learned I was textbook savvy, but I had to learn everything on the job. And you had your father to teach you that. That's pretty awesome.
Thank God. Yeah, no, absolutely. He was an amazing man.
Now, was it the same or similar business that you're in now? Or was it a completely different business that your father taught you to?
Very similar.
Okay.
So we were a telecommunication business called Southern Communication Systems when my father was alive. And so our lead-in was Avaya. We were one of only 2 African-American-owned Avaya business partnerships in the United States.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Big deal.
It took $1 million to start that business because of the inventory and the business structure. And so it was a little prohibitive to be able to become a business partner. But we were able to parlay his, he was a lobbyist and did some things in the community, and we were able to parlay that into becoming an Avaya business partner. So very similar. What I do right now is low voltage cabling.
Okay.
Okay.
What does that mean for the uninitiated?
Correct. So when you're picking up your telephone at your desk or you're using your computer, if it's not connected through Wi-Fi, it's connected through a cable that goes back to some source. And so we run that cable. You usually don't see the cable. It's inside of the walls or the ceilings, but you have to have that connection.
Copper, fiber, or both?
All of the above.
All of the above. So I hope people know that even your Wi-Fi is at least connected to some cables that make it to your house first. So you can pretty much touch every household, every business in the country that wants to communicate. Is that about it?
Correct, right. But we are commercial, and so we typically deal with businesses and other organizations such as that. But absolutely.
So,
okay. And
so how do you enter that type of business then? Right. So I imagine in the cabling business, the barriers to entry might be relatively high. Am I missing the mark? Or?
Well, it could be. And so what ended up happening, my father, some 25, 30 years ago, said technology is the way of the future, and we're going to get involved with technology. See, he was a little bit ahead of his time. Because if you talk about 30 years ago, we were not talking about technology.
Wow.
And so he said that we're going to find our way to be able to be one of those leading edge companies in technology. And so the barriers can be a little high. Typically in any industry, people set up monopolies, so to speak.
Yes.
Meaning that they put barriers there so that only a certain group of people can enter into that business. And so what we have to do as a community is find very creative and savvy ways to break through those monopolies. And so if I could simplify that a little bit, what that means, there's, there's when you are seeing people who are making large purchases and have 40, 50, 60 employees, and there's only a couple of people in a city that do that, they're going to try to protect that turf.
As they should. I don't think anything's wrong with that.
Well, antitrust laws may disagree, but and those who are trying to enter who can't get in,
right.
And so it's like that circle where you have a tight knit circle and a new person comes in and they try to get in and there's no way to get in. So you have to find creative ways to make your mark. And so what's really important in a city like Memphis is that we have leaders that understand those kinds of barriers.
Leadership
and
matters.
Then they make those kinds of moves to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to enter into those circles. Not just a few, but everybody has an opportunity to enter into those circles.
Right. And so for our listeners, that are in the Grindset world, we're wanting to know, what was step one for you? Obviously, you have experience. You work with your father in a different capacity, but outside of the paperwork, what was step one to say, you know what, I'm ready to launch a business?
Honestly, the very first step for any endeavor like this is that you have to have 159% belief in your abilities and your God. And
confidence.
You have to believe in yourself.
Okay.
I don't care who's around you. I don't care what mama say, daddy say, best friend, husband, wife.
Yeah.
You have to have a vision that is unshakable. And so the vision and that belief is the first step. You can't accomplish anything of any sizable amount without that vision and that belief. So that's the first step. And then the second step is to really, even if you don't put it in paper, you have to know what's going to happen with your business 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road.
So you have to have a plan.
You have to have a plan.
Okay.
Whether it's written or in your head, but I tell you the way things go, it's best to have it written.
Right.
And then check back with that in a periodic manner. I'm not one that says you need to spend 4 or 5 months putting a whole different, plan in place and knowing,
Right.
every detail, because things change. The economy changes, the opportunities change, the shape of your business changes, but a plan is definitely something I would recommend.
That's awesome. And you're listening to Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN network. We have Alandas Dobbins of Oteka Technologies talking about the beginning and the startup of the business. And after this short break, we're going to talk more about that, about growing the business and the financial side of actually starting and potentially growing a business. We'll be back with more Grindset after this.
Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN network. Riffin' on Jazz.
I'm Howard Robertson, one of your hosts for Riffin' on Jazz. Riffin' is your weekly visit with friends where we dive all in to that classic African-American art form called jazz. So don't miss Riffin' with me and my man Melvin Massey every week on your favorite broadcast and podcast platforms.
Riffin' on Jazz on the KUDZUKIAN network.
Hey, I'm Alandas Dobbins, CEO of Oteka Technologies, LLC, and you're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN network.
Welcome back to Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN network. We're here with Alandas Dobbins of Oteka Technologies. When we left off, we were talking about kind of the startup phase of business, and you mentioned a lot of things about the first few months of business, mostly paperwork, but I didn't hear anything about making money. But the question is, before we talk about that, how did you actually start the business? Was it with personal credit, personal money, loans, bank financing, friends and family, bootstrapping?
I would say a lot of all of that. I originally started Oteka with a partner, and partnerships are very interesting. And so you learn a lot from that. But with me having been in this industry before, I think that, once you have the vision and whatnot, it's good to be able to execute that in your own way and in your own time. And so now I'm the only owner of Oteka. And so it's real important for the African American community to really put a little bit of extra time paying attention to our credit and making sure that you're able to focus on that and build it if you have to. And if you're looking at being an entrepreneur, you really want to take the time to focus on that, because the way that the credit system is now, which it hasn't always been that way, you can't really apply for loans. You can't get a lot of the assistance that you need without them checking the personal credit of the owner in those first couple of years until you can build up your business credit.
And I would call that a major key alert, but when we talked to Andrea, she said, make sure your credit is great. Hers was great before we started. Every entrepreneur we've had on this podcast just talked about the importance of having your credit together before you go into business. And I thought I was ready to go in business until I heard and interviewed the first two. And I was like, maybe I'm about 2 years off from actually starting the business. But for you, if you started with loans from friends and family, have you paid them back yet?
I'm 2.5 years old.
Not yet. Not yet.
So you got to give me a second. But I also want to tell you, there are, because of my previous work with the city of Memphis,
yes,
there are some institutions out there who will allow some type of allowance of credit, but you pay for that.
Yes.
And so, being very disciplined with your credit score and your FICO score, and being very disciplined and immediately trying to build your score through D&B, Dun and Bradstreet for your company is something you really want to pay attention to, so that you can make sure that you can cover your growth when you get to that point. There are institutions out there that don't necessarily look at the entrepreneur's credit only.
Yes.
They may look at the contracts or your potential, but that's hard and few. And venture capital is expensive.
Right.
And so you really want to spend that time. And I've got some friends who started a business and they really watched their pennies for years.
Yeah. Okay.
And had enough money on hand to keep that business open for 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
Because they saved. They were just very disciplined.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to go into this thing with a plan. And so the question is now, how often are you looking at both your business finances and your personal finances?
Oh, it's almost a daily effort.
That was the right answer.
I mean, I'm just telling you, it just is that serious. It's just that serious.
Absolutely.
Because you've got all these other barriers in the way.
Right.
And so that's just one more barrier as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
To make sure that, only certain people get to start and grow their business. But that's when that belief in yourself, that's when your belief in your faith come to play, because it's not going to always be easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Absolutely.
And so you got to be able to lean back on something that will sustain you and that's stronger than you. And I'm going to tell you something, you focus on that belief in God and miracles can and do happen. They happen. And I'm living proof of that. And so I don't ever want to miss putting that into the mix that this pie we're creating.
But in 2 years, you've gone from you and a partner to how many employees?
We're growing right now. So we've got about 6 employees.
Yay for growth.
And growing, and, looking to hire very smart, young, or just smart, hungry people who are, willing to be a part of something new and great.
Well, that's exciting.
So,
this is for your advertisement. What are the qualifications for that job? Just hungry and smart?
Yeah, we've got positions in sales. We've got technicians that have experience with cabling.
Yeah.
Our website is www.otekatech.com, OTEKATECH.com.
Grindset might post a job on KUDZUKIAN. I don't know. But so what was life like growing from you and a partner up to 6 employees? Like that's a feat in and of itself, because some people just have they're the business, right? But you really become a business owner when you start hiring. So
the growth has been really I don't get very much sleep. I mean, but I just got to tell you, but it's worth it to me.
Sleep for what?
That's right, when I die, right?
Was there just a certain point where you woke up one day and said, I need to hire somebody? What was
No,
was that
I hustled my buns off.
Okay.
And got the contracts that we've been able to procure, and then had to fulfill and make sure that I could fulfill those contracts.
Okay.
And so I'm a risk taker by nature. I believe in, you get up every morning and you can eat what you kill, and that's all that I can do. Right. And so
saleswoman,
I'm a go-getter that way.
Go get it.
And so, you work hard. So a major contract that we have, the first time we did not win it, and you got a lot of people fighting, saying why I should not win it, and I fought and said why I should. And so you have to believe in yourself. I just can't say that enough. Another contract we won, there weren't the invitation. I was the last one to come in to interview, and I made sure that I left that lasting impression so that I could get chosen to be a part of that particular contract.
Okay.
And so, again, it's this thing where you have to sell yourself and believe in yourself. And even if you think that you are not really prepared, I would go after the opportunity, knowing that you have the backing to cover if you do win.
Right. And one thing I'd like to share with our Grindset listeners, you're mentioning the word contract a lot. And I know that there are a lot of new business owners that aren't really familiar with their process. So I want to encourage listeners to check out Epicenter. We really do have a great partnership with them, and they believe in helping women understand what it's like to start a business, talking about the credit, talking about what you need to have to win those contracts. So I think that's important to share as well as you share your story.
And in winning a contract, there has to be a competitive advantage of why you were chosen.
Right.
What would you say Oteka's competitive advantage is in the marketplace?
So you have to, again, hire the most amazing people. Your company can only rise as far as the people that you have working with you.
Major key.
It's critical, because even in this small time that I've been in business, I've had to, and you got to know, you got to hire slow and fire quick. If you see somebody that is not able to cut the mustard, it's you're there to make it's my passion, but I'm there to make some money. And so, take your time in hiring. Okay. It is so important that you do the background checks. Mm-hmm. It is so important that you do the drug test, that you find a reputable company. I mean, I just got to put that out there, and you take your time. Now, because we pull cable, I have the discretion to be able to hire people who may have backgrounds that other companies may not hire, because we're pulling cable. And that's my choice as an owner to want to give back to my community. And so,
and that's important.
It's very important. We did it with my father when we owned a business, and I'm doing it today. So, that's, I get the background check. If people are honest and they are upfront, there's opportunities there.
That's God's work.
I appreciate that, but and so that's why I'm here. I want to be able to give people opportunities that may not have opportunities in other arenas in life, and so that because I'm the owner, I can do that. I can make that decision.
And that we're going to end on that note, to make sure that you do give back in your business. That's very important. So when we come back in our next segment, we're going to look ahead and figure out what's next for Oteka Technologies.
Very good.
Yeah.
And finally, Dr. Kay Streeter.
Hello.
How are you, Doc?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Great. Psychologist and a boxing matchmaker.
She's a streeter fighter. Okay.
Of the famous Streeter, and Streeter.
Yeah, there you go. She's going to bring it to us straight from the streeter.
Let's talk about this segment, Gumball.
Now is not the time to hate or criticize. Now is the time to disinfect and deodorize. Light the incense. It's going to be funky.
KUDZUKIAN! Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
We're back on Grindset with Alandas Dobbins, CEO of Oteka Technologies. We're going to just take a little bit of a look back into the business, and we're really excited to know what's going to be ahead. So what I really want to know, as a new business owner, what were some of the biggest personal sacrifices you made to actually grow your business? Because in the last segment, we talked about you going from operating this business by yourself to now having 6 employees. So what was a big sacrifice for you?
Well, as an owner, you're going to get paid last. So you got to make sure you've covered payroll, that you've covered, getting the materials. Our particular business model, we have to buy materials for the job first. And so that makes you hustle a lot more every day because you're getting paid last.
So you have to hold inventory.
Sometimes, yes.
Okay.
With the cabling, yes. Okay.
Do you know your inventory turnover and inventory days?
Well, here's a business tip. We've worked very closely with our distributor, so the majority of our materials they house for us in their warehouse, so we don't have to house it.
On-demand inventory.
Correct.
That's beautiful.
That's right.
So that's the Japanese way.
And during this time, obviously, you're making those sacrifices to grow your business. How do you feel like it affected some of your personal relationships?
Oh, you have to really have some serious balance with that, because you will get out of balance really quickly, especially if you're growing really fast. And so you have to spend a lot of extra time. I see a masseuse at least once every 2 weeks.
Wow.
Sometimes once a week.
I don't even do that. Wait
Honey,
a
let
minute.
me tell you, because I mean, it's real.
Major key.
That's a major key.
It's real because the stress is so high that you can't allow that to take you out. And so for me, it's critical that you do those kinds of things because, you know, particularly with Black women, we tend to take care of everybody and don't take care of our, and we're yes. And so you have to, I've made it very clear that if I'm going to grow this business at the pace that I want to grow it, that I've got to make sure that I'm taking care of me while I'm doing it. So that's critical.
So now that we're here, what else is in your personal care plan? Massages. What else you do to stay sane?
Well, I mean, you got to exercise, walking, something, because you know it's a good way to for me walking is a meditative time, and it's time for me to think through things. I don't really I will walk with friends, but I really kind of like to walk by myself. That's my time that I get to kind of think through the issues, talk to God, figure it out. And so, you know, that's a good thing for me.
Now, is this an Olympic speed walk or like a nice stroll through the park?
Nice stroll through the park for me. Put some shades on and a hat. It's just me and God time. Right. So that, you know, that's good for balance. And, you know, make sure that you're nurturing your relationships because you can't just be all business. You have to be able to nurture those relationships as well in your life. And I'm an empty nester now. So, you know, that gives me, this is the perfect time as far as I'm concerned to start the business. And in fact, I brought my daughter in to the business. And so she'll be the third generation.
Third generation.
That's important. That's a major key alert. Keep it in the family.
Keep it in the family. You know, I'm blessed to have a daughter who even wants to be there.
That's definitely a blessing. That's definitely.
So, and I enjoyed working with my father. Again, he taught me so much, and I didn't even know he was teaching me.
Absolutely,
I didn't know. I know now.
You were just there.
That's all I was doing.
And you brought up something really important. Obviously, you know, your daughter, she's part of the business. Would you say that she's the most supportive person as you grow your business and venture into this journey, or would you say there's someone else that's there to support
I was really very surprised, but she came on board not by choice. I had to beg her. You know, she had her own job, but she's been amazing because I think that she has bought into the fact that this is hers. You know, it's
sounds
a
like
family.
some good parenting.
Oh, thank you. She's bought into it, and so it's worked out very well.
Wonderful.
It's not that it's tough some days. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect,
right?
But it has worked out well that she understands.
It's a family business,
and so that is a rough segue to this question. But we talked about you having 6 employees. Obviously, your daughter sounds like she's one. What's the benefit of actually hiring employees versus using contractors?
Well, I'm sure it's different in different businesses, but in my business, for instance, if I need somebody to do boring, it's very expensive to do underground boring. And so for me to buy that equipment to bid on maybe 1 or 2 jobs a year it's prohibitive.
Not a good investment.
So it's good to develop relationships with subcontractors who do that. But in my business also, there is what the market will bear. And so having subcontractors can be a little tough. And subcontractors are different than 1099 employees, but for the subcontractor, you have to, you know, really work with them to be able to mark up that material that service that they provide. And so the relationships is the thing. Everything is about the relationships.
Yes.
Wherever you go, whatever networking you do, the relationships, because you never know when you might need someone in the industry to do that.
Major key alert, relationships matter. Now, here on Grindset,
you know, they say the network determines your net worth.
Health is wealth. Network is net worth. What other idioms do we have?
There's a lot of them, right?
You know, we can go all day.
Right.
All day.
And so these relationships are important to maintain the margins, right? Are you managing do you feel like you're doing a good job of managing the margins and your profits of the business?
Ooh, this accounting software thing is real. So, man, we're trying to get that right because you got to know that. You got to know the health of your business on a regular basis.
Oh, without question.
You check your bank accounts every morning, every night, or during the day. If you have those alerts, that's real. If you have bookkeepers and things like that and people working for you. So, you know, putting those the safeguards in place are critical. And technology right now allows a lot that, before you didn't have when you have employees. And so you've got GPS software now where people can check in if they don't have to come to the office first, or if they're working on site. Okay. There's GPS software that they can check in and make sure they're on the job site, because you can't go around to every job site. Right. If you're a contractor checking on everybody. And so there's software out there for that. So technology is our friend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before we get out of here, I want to ask you one last thing. So tell me, what's next for Oteka Technologies? Do you have any new locations coming up? Maybe some franchising possibilities? Maybe new partnership? What does that look like for you?
So, our logo is cabling the world one cable at a time. And so we're just taking those steps so that eventually we'll be able to look at quite possibly growing to city size, and then state size, and then federal size. So that's the long-term plan.
So we're supposed to be getting out of here, but what's the difference between working with governments and working with bigger commercial companies?
So a lot of times the paperwork and the things that you need to be able to fulfill a government contract are so intricate and so detailed that it allows you to be ready for the private sector. And the good thing about getting a government contract, if you can do it right, is that it allows you consistency. Yes. You can get a 1 year or a 2 year contract, and as long as you perform, you're able to get that every month, or get payment on a consistent basis, versus having to always get up and go knock down the door every week for new business. Right. But in the private sector, you're able to make those margins a little bit stronger for the most part. And so there's pros and cons in both. But I think that you should really mix up your portfolio. Yes. Never have more than 30% in one
concentration
in your basket, industry. Because in one industry, because if you or in one contract, if one contract constitutes 70% of your business and you lose that one contract, where are you?
Right. In banking, we make sure we manage out concentrations, and that our businesses know not to be concentrated in one contract or one business or anything of that nature. So our audience should know, but just in case they don't, could you explain margin to them?
Oh, well, yes. What you make off of the contract after you pay your employees, after you pay your insurance and your overhead, if you're in whatever your business is in, if it's in a building, if it's in your home, there's overhead. You got to pay light, gas, and water and all those things. And so what you make are your margins on that particular opportunity.
Money coming in with your revenue and money going out with expenses. The margin is what you keep.
And so for a contract, we go after contracts in my particular line of business, and some people go after customers, or they may franchise, but for us, the contract is the big deal.
Yes. You're such a great business owner, and we're excited about what's coming in the future for Oteka Technologies, LLC. And we could talk for hours about business and the fundamentals of it. But that's it for our episode of Grindset. Alandas, thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Go for your dreams, people. Go for your dreams.
Woo, woo. Go for your dreams. Go for your dreams. Cynthia, what do you think about this? Thank you, Alandas.
This has been an incredible episode, Alandas. I would love to have you back so we can follow up with you and see what happens next year.
That would be great. Thank you both so much. It's been wonderful.
It's been amazing.
Don't forget to put this on your website. You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. We'll be right back.
Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Best in Blue.
There's a picture that's been floating around social media, especially Facebook. That's probably got 7 or 8 little old church ladies standing on the porch, and they all got the hats on, they all carrying purses, and it says, "My first police." The only police that I've ever been afraid of was that group. That was me growing up.
Best in Blue on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
KUDZUKIAN.
Welcome back to Grindset on the KUDZUKIAN Network. We just finished interviewing Alandas Dobbins, the CEO of Oteka Technologies, LLC. And basically, she took us to business school today.
She did. It was amazing.
It's real. I learned a lot.
I did too.
Every time I think that I'm ready to start a business, we have guests that come on and just drop dimes on us. And so
every week.
And some of the major keys that Alandas dropped was, if you're growing your company, Oteka Technology is only 2 years old. But one of the major keys she dropped was your company will only grow as fast as the talent you hire. So hire great, and that gives your company so much potential. And of course, as every guest has dropped, credit.
So important.
Even Jay-Z put it in the song.
He did.
Mind your credit. And so Alandas reinforced that. She told us her story. Cynthia, what did you think about the episode?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I'm so inspired. What I love about my business, I'm new as well. I'm in the game 2 years, but I get to be right next to this amazing business owner that just gives me this incredible knowledge that I get to use week to week. But definitely learn about just the business that Alandas has. I was not aware of this industry, so it was really educational for me.
It is.
And then what I wanted to share with all of our listeners out there, for all of the women that are ready to start that business, I want to share a quote from Oprah Winfrey. I think we all look up to her.
I look up to Oprah for sure.
We all do. But I think it touches on a lot of what Alandas shared with us today. The quote says, "Don't worry about being successful, but work toward being significant, and the success will naturally follow." So I think as women, we have to figure out what the vision is, write that vision down and follow that vision. Don't try to compete with other people. Don't try to get ahead of yourself. Figure out how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And the success will follow you.
You heard it here first. You're listening to Grindset, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Grindset, executive producer Epicenter. Recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studios. Grindset is directed, produced, recorded, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.